The pursuit of Kyle Tucker approaches its conclusion. The race to sign Kyle Tucker is rapidly nearing its end, with industry insiders suggesting a final decision is imminent. High-profile reporters indicate that the outfielder's choice could be finalized within the next week or two. The field of contenders has narrowed down to the Toronto Blue Jays, the New York Mets, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. These are the only three organizations confirmed to have held substantive negotiations with Tucker's representatives, both in person and via digital platforms. While the possibility of a mystery suitor remains until a contract is signed, the current landscape appears largely set. Record-breaking offers. Recent reports have spotlighted a massive offer from the New York Mets, valued at $50 million per season. This short-term, high-value proposal has been corroborated by multiple industry sources, despite initial skepticism regarding such record-breaking figures. In contrast, the Toronto Blue Jays have reportedly extended a long-term offer that prioritizes total guaranteed compensation over several years. Financial experts believe Toronto is the one organization willing to meet Tucker's reported $400 million asking price to secure his services for the long haul. This creates a fascinating dilemma for the player, accepting record-breaking annual salaries or the security of a decade-long commitment. The dilemma of risk versus stability. Opting for a long-term deal serves as a crucial insurance policy against the inherent risks associated with professional athletics. If Tucker chooses a short-term path with the Mets or Dodgers, he may find himself chasing these same figures when he hits the free agent market again at age 32. A lengthy contract provides essential protection against career-altering injuries, a sudden decline in offensive production, future economic shifts or salary cap discussions during upcoming collective bargaining negotiations. Securing a guaranteed windfall now eliminates the calculated gamble of relying on sustained health to maintain future market value. Position as a market setter. Comparisons to other players who took shorter deals, such as Alex Bregman, fail to account for the unique market position Tucker currently holds. Unlike his peers, Tucker is widely considered the premier talent of his class and a true market setter for the entire league. While some observers worry about the complexities of playing in different cities, the player's interest in Toronto is reportedly as high as the team's interest in him. Barring a significant lowball offer from the Blue Jays, the financial logic strongly favors the stability and massive total value of their long-term proposal. The baseball world expects this saga to conclude shortly, allowing the winning franchise to focus on its championship aspirations. Beyond the immediate cash flow, a long-term commitment serves as a strategic hedge against the upcoming renegotiations of the collective bargaining agreement. Securing a contract that spans multiple CBA cycles ensures that Tucker's earnings are grandfathered in, regardless of future shifts in revenue sharing or the implementation of a salary cap. This level of financial insulation is a luxury many other players, such as Alex Bregman or Pete Alonso, did not have the opportunity to secure during their respective free agencies. While some argue that those players benefited from shorter deals, industry insiders point out that those decisions were often born of necessity rather than preference. As a premier talent and a true market setter, Tucker has the rare leverage to demand the kind of generational security that renders short-term gambles obsolete. If the financial packages from the New York Mets and the Los Angeles Dodgers end up being comparable, the decision may ultimately hinge on organizational stability. The Dodgers offer a proven blueprint for consistent success, positioning themselves as World Series favorites year after year. Conversely, the Mets are currently viewed by some as being in a state of flux, creating a degree of uncertainty regarding their long-term competitive trajectory. A player prioritizing immediate championship opportunities would likely find the established culture in Los Angeles more enticing than the current situation in New York. Furthermore, the rumored $50 million annual offer from the Mets may represent a hard ceiling, leaving little room for further negotiation. Some observers suggest that Tucker could wait until next year to capitalize on a weaker free agent class but this strategy carries immense inherent risk. Entering the market a year later would mean risking a significant injury or a natural decline in performance. Metrics such as exit velocity or hard hit rate. Since Tucker is already considered the top-tier player in the current market, there is little to be gained by delaying a massive payday. The same high-spending teams pursuing him today would likely be the same suitors next winter, providing no real expansion of his potential market. Choosing to lock in a guaranteed $350 to $400 million now is the most logical path for a player entering his physical prime. The conclusion of this high-stakes recruitment is expected to occur rapidly, potentially within the next several days. Fans and analysts alike are bracing for a move that will shift the balance of power within the league for years to come. Once the final terms are agreed upon, the winning organization can pivot its focus toward building a championship roster around their new centerpiece. Regardless of the destination, Tucker's eventual contract will serve as a new benchmark for elite talent across the sport. The industry remains on high alert as the final pieces of the puzzle fall into place for one of the most anticipated signings in recent memory. If the financial terms between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Mets reach parity, the decision likely shifts toward organizational stability and immediate competitiveness. The Dodgers represent a gold standard of consistent winning, offering a clear path to October success year after year. In contrast, the Mets are perceived by some industry experts as an organization in a period of transition, which introduces variables regarding their future floor and ceiling. For a player of Tucker's caliber, the certainty of joining a perennial powerhouse may outweigh a marginally higher annual salary from a team still finding its footing. Ultimately, choosing a championship-ready culture provides a professional environment that short-term financial gains simply cannot replicate. Some analysts have suggested that Tucker could potentially maximize his value by waiting for next year's free agent class, which is widely considered to be weaker. However, this strategy is fraught with significant risks, including the possibility of a major injury or a measurable decline in key performance metrics before the next signing period. Since Tucker is already positioned as the premier talent in the current market, there is very little room for his valuation to climb further. Delaying a massive commitment would also mean risking a decline in underlying stats like barrel rate or exit velocity, which could spook potential suitors. By securing a deal now, the outfielder avoids the gamble of his physical health and performance remaining perfectly stagnant for another full season. The industry expectation is that this high-stakes process will reach its definitive conclusion within the next few days, if not sooner. Once the final terms are established, the winning franchise will have secured a cornerstone player capable of altering their competitive trajectory for the next decade. For the organizations that fall short of landing the star outfielder, the focus will immediately shift to alternative ways to bolster their rosters before the spring training window closes. Whether the final number settles near the anticipated $400 million mark or follows a shorter, high AAV structure, the deal will set a new precedent for elite talent. As the baseball world waits for the final word, it is clear that Tucker's choice will represent a historic shift in the sport's modern economy. The notion that entering a weaker market next winter would significantly boost Tucker's leverage is largely a misconception within the industry. As the undisputed top talent available today, there is no real advantage to being the biggest fish in an even smaller pond a year from now. Delaying a signature contract only exposes the player to the harsh realities of physical volatility and performance fluctuations. A single season featuring a drop in exit velocity or a lower barrel rate could potentially cost him tens of millions in guaranteed earnings. Furthermore, the constant threat of a significant physical setback, like a torn ACL, remains a powerful incentive to finalize a massive deal while his value is at its absolute peak. If the financial commitments from the top bidders are essentially identical, the decision-making process will likely pivot toward the competitive viability of each franchise. The Los Angeles Dodgers represent a perennial powerhouse with a roster constructed for immediate and sustained postseason success. Conversely, the New York Mets are often described as an organization in a state of flux, leaving their future performance levels open to debate. For a superstar in his prime, choosing the stability of an established winner is often the most logical move to ensure a legacy. Opting for a championship-ready environment eliminates the guesswork associated with rebuilding phases or leadership changes within a front office. Beyond the immediate roster concerns, a decade-long agreement offers a crucial shield against the looming uncertainties of future labor negotiations. Signing a long-term pact now ensures that the terms will be grandfathered in before the next collective bargaining agreement takes effect in 2027. This provides a level of financial immunity against potential salary caps or structural changes that could impact future market values. Unlike other players who were forced into shorter deals due to lack of market interest, Tucker has the leverage to dictate his own financial destiny. By locking in a massive total sum today, he effectively insulates himself from the economic shifts that may define the next decade of professional baseball. While some observers look to the cases of other stars as evidence that short-term gambles can pay off, those comparisons often fall short of the current reality. Those individuals typically accepted shorter contracts because high-value, long-term proposals were simply not available to them at the time. Tucker is operating from a position of much greater strength, making the pursuit of immediate security a far more attractive and sensible path. The conclusion of this saga is expected to arrive within the next week, finally ending months of speculation and rumor. Once the ink is dry, the focus will shift entirely to how the newly signed star will impact his team's championship aspirations for the upcoming season. The perceived success of other stars who accepted shorter deals, such as Alex Bregman or Pete Alonso, does not accurately reflect the unique leverage currently held by Kyle Tucker. Industry analysts point out that those players often settled for shorter commitments because high-value, long-term proposals were simply not available to them at the time. As a premier talent and a true market setter, Tucker is not in a position where he must rely on the performance of his peers to dictate his financial worth. There is currently no evidence to suggest that the Toronto Blue Jays would offer a lowball figure, such as a 9-year deal for only $250 million, which would be the only logical reason to reject their proposal. Ultimately, choosing a guaranteed total of nearly $400 million now is a far more secure strategy than risking a second trip to the market in his mid-30s. A long-term agreement also serves as a strategic hedge against the upcoming renegotiations of the collective bargaining agreement. Securing a contract that spans multiple CBA cycles ensures that the player's earnings are grandfathered in, regardless of future shifts in revenue sharing or the potential implementation of a salary cap. This level of financial insulation is particularly attractive given the current instability surrounding regional sports television deals and league-wide economic talks. While some observers suggest that only fans worry about these structural shifts, the reality is that players prioritize the absolute certainty that a long-term guarantee provides. By locking in a massive sum today, Tucker effectively removes himself from the tactical maneuvers and financial uncertainty that may define the next decade of the sport. If the financial packages from the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Mets reach parity, the decision will likely hinge on organizational stability and immediate championship potential. The Dodgers offer a proven blueprint for consistent success, positioning themselves as World Series favorites every single year. Conversely, the Mets are viewed by some as being in a state of flux, which creates a degree of uncertainty regarding their long-term competitive trajectory. For a superstar entering his physical prime, choosing the established culture of a perennial winner is often the most logical path to ensure a professional legacy. When the money is comparable, elite athletes will almost always favor the certainty of a championship contender over a team whose future remains difficult to predict. The industry is currently on high alert as this high-stakes recruitment reaches its definitive endgame, with a resolution expected to occur any day now. High-profile reporters indicate that the outfielder's choice will likely be finalized within the next week, finally ending months of speculation. Whether the final agreement follows the massive total value offered by the Blue Jays or the high annual salary proposed by the Mets, the outcome will fundamentally shift the league's balance of power. Once the contract is signed, the focus of the winning franchise will pivot entirely toward integrating their new centerpiece for the upcoming season. This signing will not only set a new benchmark for elite talent, but also mark the conclusion of one of the most anticipated free agency sagas in recent history.